All right, happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Jessie with Grow Nebraska. Welcome to November's third Thursday training with Tony Schultz. I'll let Tony introduce himself shortly, but in the meantime, I have just a couple housekeeping items. Mark your calendars for next year's Marketech Conference. If you're fortunate enough to be at this year's, you'll know exactly why we're telling people to get registered now. We'll more than likely sell out this year, so mark your calendar, April 15th, 2020. This month's featured Grow Nebraska member is hay bale banners. Innovative hay bale banners to attach to your round hay bales. Use them to market, sell, reflect, or promote. Attention getting and unique. Don't forget, get your message noticed. And you can learn more about them at haybalebanners.com. Now it's time for the man of the hour. I'm going to let Tony share his screen here. So this is a casual webinar today. If you have any questions while Tony is presenting, raise your hand, chat with me directly or to the group, and we'll get it answered as Tony is discussing that topic. We may also have time for some Q&A at the end, so keep that in mind as well. And if Tony, I'm going to get you unmuted here and we'll let you take it away. Please introduce yourself.
All right, thanks Jessie for the introduction. My name is Tony Schultz. I'm with the Small Business Development Center, and we're based out of the Nebraska Business Development Center here in Omaha. We have small business development centers located around the state of Nebraska, so no matter where you're connecting, if you're watching the webinar at a later date, we'll have a map at the end that'll kind of show you locations where your nearest office is at. So if you need assistance or need to contact us for any reason, you kind of know where to connect at. So a little bit of background about the Nebraska Business Development Center. What we do is we are here to make good businesses better. So we provide consulting services to businesses, whether they're startups, whether they're ones that have been in business for several years, or possibly it's a business that's transitioning out, that's maybe the folks are looking to retire or looking to sell. So we help the businesses in all phases of the business cycle. All our services that we provide in terms of consulting are free, so the price is right. It's a good price. So that's one of the things that's a resource that's out there for you all to take advantage of. So if you need help with the business plan, you need help with cash flow projections, perhaps you might need help with marketing, things like that. If you're going to the bank, maybe the bank says, hey, we're not ready to do the loan yet, we need to work on a business plan. We're a resource that can help you out. We also have a division that does government contracting. So if you have an industry or business that wants to connect with government contracts, we have a group that does that. We also have a group that helps with innovation to commercialization. So that's a nice feature there. So if you have a new innovative tech product that you want to bring into the marketplace, we have some opportunities there. Please connect with us and we can help you through that. And then lastly, we have professional organizational development group. What they do is they do training on different topics. It might be human resources, it might be lean manufacturing. There's a lot of different ones there, and those are a fee service, so they do charge a minimal fee for their services and for their classes. So those are some of the things that the Nebraska Business Development Center does. One thing I'll kind of warn you about is I am at Mammal Hall at UNO, and we have a large construction project going on literally right outside my window. So if you hear some engine noise and some beeps from machinery backing up, that's what's going on there. So we'll just pretend that those are kind of sound effects for our marketing plan, building our marketing plan. So maybe that'll work there. So we'll jump into it. We'll try to get the slideshow to transition over. Hang on just a second. There we go. So most businesses, small business owners don't have a lot of time on their hands, as you're well aware. You're torn between many different responsibilities and duties and things like that. A lot of the small business owners that we work with are kind of jack of many trades. They do several different things within their organization, and their time is very precious. So one of the things I would say is, in terms of generating a marketing plan, it's important to take the time to do it. It's easy to say, I don't have the time, maybe I don't need a plan, maybe my business is small enough that it's not really something that I want to jump into. I would argue that every business needs a marketing plan, and the marketing plan is going to help you grow your business, grow your revenue, and it's just an effective tool that you really need to look at and jump into. One of the things I say is it's important to be strategic about the way you spend your budgeting dollars. So when you select marketing channels to market with, it's important to pick channels that match who your customers are. You don't want to just throw resources away. You don't want to be a situation where you just spend money to say, okay, I've done marketing. That's kind of what my model is I'm just going to put some money out there and kind of hope that it generates customers and gets people through the door. That's not what we want. We want things to be strategic. We want them to be part of a plan. We want them to be matching with our customer base. So when we do advertising, we know we're connecting to our customer, we're getting in front of them, and we're getting our product or our service directly in front of in front of that customer. So what are our objectives today? We want to give you some tools for building your marketing plan. We're going to provide you with some resources available, not only resources to help you build your plan, but resources to connect for questions, or if you need help maybe adjusting your plan, or just maybe a second set of eyes to look at it and say, okay, this is great, maybe we need to work on this area here. We want to help you understand how the marketing plan benefits your business. If the marketing plan isn't a benefit, people aren't going to do it. So we want to show you today how that's going to help your business. We're going to talk about some benchmarks. Benchmarks are awesome. You can go through and you can see what others are doing and how you compare to those metrics and numbers. So when your neighbor's marketing and they're spending X amount of dollars compared to sales for marketing, what should you be spending? What's the average for your industry? What does that look like? So we're going to talk about some benchmarks today. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some market research. Market research is really key to identifying your customer, your marketplace, particularly when you first start up. Market research is important, not only to see where you're going to market your items. If you're going to have a physical store location, what's that store location look like, where you're going to go, what do the rings around that center look like in terms of population density, household income, things like that. So we're going to talk about all those things today as part of the marketing plan. I like this quote here, Warren Buffett, out of Omaha. It seems like everywhere you turn, you see a picture of a Warren Buffett or a newspaper article clipping, something like that. So I like the picture here where he's counting out his dollars. I think that's kind of funny. So, but risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Hopefully what we'll do today is kind of give you some tools and some things to help you figure out what your marketing plan looks like. So why do you need a marketing plan? We talked about a little bit the industry benchmarks in the area. If you're able to look at other operations similar to yours, it gives you a little bit of a path or a little bit of insight into what they're doing and how they're doing it. If you can get that little bit of insight, you can look at your numbers and see, how do I compare to them? What do my numbers look like in terms of marketing dollars, or maybe how much you spend on rent, or how much you spend on payroll? Maybe you're overstaffed. Maybe you have too much payroll, or maybe you're paying too much rent. Those are things that benchmarks really help you understand. We're able to pull that data at the Nebraska Business Development Center and kind of help figure out what that looks like. It also helps you get an understanding of your customer. A lot of people kind of just open their doors or put their items out for sale and say, okay, whoever comes up is my customer. If they buy my item, they're my customer. What we want to do is we want to take a little bit more detailed look at who your customer is. We want to dial that down, figure out who that specific person is, and then target the marketing towards them. So that's really key as you go through. When I think about marketing, I think about what's the best way to reach the customer? How do I connect to my customers? And then seasonality and marketing is a consideration. You may have a business model that's up and down. You know, we're coming up on the holiday season. You know, Black Friday is coming up, and they're calling it Brown Thursday now for Thanksgiving because a lot of stores are opening for that. So that's coming up. So what's the seasonality of marketing look like? How should you spend your marketing dollars? If it's a busy time of year, should you be spending those marketing dollars, or should you be spending them during a slower time of year? If you're a retail business, obviously November and December is the prime time. You get to January and February, it slows down. So do you spend those dollars when it's the prime time, or do you spend those dollars when it's a little slower and need to generate more traffic through the door? And then discovering what works and what doesn't. The main thing that we want to look at is we want to evaluate our marketing that we do. When we do a marketing piece, whether it's a radio, a TV, newspaper, magazine, maybe it's a Facebook boost, whatever it is, how do we measure the effectiveness of that item? You know, we want to be able to go back and trace it and say, okay, how many customers actually came to our door because we did this Facebook boost or we ran this TV advertisement? And we want to look at how we tie those things together to understand what it is that's bringing those customers in the door. The other thing we want to do is we want to track key contacts. When you have your marketing plan set up, we want to be able to understand who our key contacts are to our advertisers. So in most instances, you'll work with one salesperson. That salesperson will be your connection to that particular radio station, TV station, newspaper, whatever it may be. So we want to be able to track those key contacts, make sure that we're connecting to them periodically to understand if we signed a marketing contract, what that looks like, how things are going with the marketing contract, and the way things are looking with that. So we want to track those key contacts. The other thing we want to do is we want to avoid costly marketing mistakes. We don't want to go into marketing and not have a strategy or an idea of what we want to do. So we want to be strategic about the channels we pick. We want to make sure that we're not throwing dollars away that aren't reaching our customers in the terms of advertising. So that's really the key of why you need a marketing plan, to put all those pieces together to make sure that when you spend any kind of money in terms of marketing, that a big Pac-Man's not coming and chomping it up and your customers aren't coming in the door. So make sure that as you spend those dollars that you're getting the bang for the buck. So let's take a look at benchmarks for just a second here. So benchmarks are going to tell us expenses as a percentage of sales or revenue. So in this case, your revenue comes out as 100%. And then this is going to break out how those other expenses compare. So if you look at your budget and your salary and wages is 60% of your sales revenue, and you compare and look at the benchmark, in this case, 2017, it was 37.36%, then that's a red flag. That tells you that there's some variance going on where, you know, you're dumping dollars into your salary and your wages that's higher than what the industry average is. So every industry is different. And the nice thing about the reports that we can pull here are we can dial it down to your specific industry. So it makes it easy to compare, so it's apples to apples in comparison to those expenses. The other big one is rent. If you have a physical store location, as a percentage of sales, what's your rent? I've happened to manage a regional shopping center for about 18 years. One of the key things that we looked at was rent in comparison to sales or sales projections. If tenants came in or a prospective tenant came in and they said, my sales are X amount, this is the rent I can afford, we were able to calculate and see, okay, what was the rent as a percentage of sales? If it was within a specific range, that tenant was going to be okay, they were going to make it. If it was way beyond that range, then they were paying too much rent as compared to the sales, the store wasn't going to make it, they were going to fail. So really what we want to look at is we want to take a look at these benchmarks. We want to understand where our specific business is compared to the average. By comparing those, we can kind of see, is there an area where we need to cut or trim back, or is there an area maybe where we can boost up and maybe raise it a little bit. So these benchmarks are key. This is a nice thing that can help you see where your marketing dollars are compared to, say, your industry standard. Okay, so how do I create a marketing plan? This is by no means rocket science. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter, what background you have, what training you've had. If you get on the internet, there's several different marketing plan templates that you can access, so that's not a bad resource. The thing to remember about marketing plans is, as you go through, they're going to have different structure. So you may see a marketing plan here that has one particular structure. You may see one online that has a different structure. So the main thing that we're looking at is that the marketing plan has some specific pillars, and what those pillars are basically the marketing objective, the target markets, the budget, and the action plan. So any marketing plan that you pull up should have those main pillars, those main areas of focus. Structure is important in the plan, but keep in mind, you want to build this plan specific to your business. So keep that in mind as you put it together. The idea is that this plan is a living document. It's something that we're going to go through and we're going to look at throughout the year. Maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once every couple months, and look at it and see where we're at in terms of budget, in terms of where we're focusing our marketing dollars, things like that. So it's a living document. It's made to be adjusted. It's made to be reviewed. So make sure you set up some type of schedule where, okay, it's February 20th. This is the date I check out my marketing plan. I look to see how January went and how part of February went. Or maybe you set it up so, 3 months into the year you check out your marketing plan and see where you're at. So that's really, what we want to have happen here is we want to have it be a document where you're looking at it, you're checking it out, and you're seeing what it looks like. Things change. There's so much change within the marketing world. When I was a kid, there was no such thing as social media. It wasn't a thing. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was no Snapchat, all those different things. As things change, we want to be able to adjust our marketing plan to fit those changes and those innovations and things like that. So you want to be able to make sure that you don't do the same thing annually just because it's easy. If you've always advertised in, say, the newspaper, maybe that's not your most effective way to advertise. Look at different mediums, look at different channels for marketing, and don't just do the same thing every year just because that's always what's been done. All right, so the executive summary. The executive summary is really kind of your summary of all the things that are going to go into what you build in your marketing plan. Executive summary is really the last thing you're going to do. What you're going to do is you're going to capture the highlights from every other section and you're going to build into your executive summary. You want to make sure that you're telling your marketing story. And this story doesn't have to be just about the positive. It doesn't have to be about how great things are. This isn't an elevator speech. This isn't a sales pitch to someone. You're not going to present your marketing plan to someone when you sell your business or if you're marketing your business, things like that. This is an internal document where you want to talk about what are the good things that happen, what are the bad things that happen, what are the changes in the market, what do I want to pick out and really focus on in terms of this year in marketing. This isn't a big novel. You don't have to write a bunch of pages here. Short, to the point, make it so it's focused on exactly what you want to do. What we have a tendency to do is sometimes we get into a situation where we want to make it long and wordy and fancy and kind of do that. In this case, that's not what you want to do. You want to make it short, to the point, summarize everything that you put together in your marketing plan. That's what the executive summary is all about. Okay, company history. Here we want to talk about where your company started, where it's at now, and where you want it to be in the future. So what this is really a historical section where you want to kind of give yourself a sort of a history on the business. So if you handed this to an employee, maybe they're a brand new employee that just started, it's important that they know how your business started. Maybe there's a family connection. Maybe there's things that are important for them to know in terms of what your company used to be, what it is now. So in this history section, just tell the story. Tell the story of what your business has done over time. Maybe it's brand new. Maybe you've been in business for 30 years. Start from that ideation phase. How did you get the idea for the business? What made you interested in what you do? Why is that your passion? Like I said, recognize the good, the bad, and the ugly. What we're saying here is tell the whole story. So, if you had a business and maybe it was set up in a store and there was a fire and the fire burned up your shop and you had to start from the very beginning, tell that as part of your story. Include that in your story. Any kind of obstacles, things that you run into, challenges, things like that, tell that in your story. But also capture the positives too. What are the great things about your business? What are the things that make it part of the community that really make you part of that kind of group that's the small business group. So tell that story, get that in there, make it so if an employee comes in, you can hand them that section and go, here's what my company's about. I want you to understand what it's about before you start. So marketing objectives, challenges and orientation. Marketing objectives are simply your goals. What do you want to accomplish with your marketing efforts? Goals need to be SMART. It's an acronym. You've probably seen it before. You want them to be specific to what you want to accomplish. Detail, bring in more detail. The more detail, the better. Measurable. How do you measure if you accomplish your goal? You want it something where at the end you can say either I achieved this or I didn't achieve it, or my business achieved it, my business didn't achieve it. We want them to be achievable or attainable. We'd all love to have a $1 million increase in revenue next year. Is that achievable? Probably not, unless something really changes within the business. So make sure they're achievable goals. We also want them to be relevant. If we set a goal and it doesn't impact our business, it doesn't make it better, it's not relevant to the business. So we want things that are relevant, that tie to the business, that impact the business, that impact whether it's expenses, revenue, whatever. We want it to be relevant. And then we want it to be time sensitive. Set a deadline, set a date. When do you want to achieve that marketing objective? What's the date where you want to have it done? By setting that date, it does a couple things. It does accountability. It sets you accountable to that date. but also gives you an idea of when to kind of go back to your plan and say, okay, I didn't achieve this by this date. How do I pivot? How do I adjust? How do I change to capture this? Challenges, obstacles, barriers to the business, recognize those and identify them. What are those? What do they look like? What's causing you sleepless nights? When you get up in the middle of the night, what worries you? Let's look at those challenges and obstacles and see how the marketing plan can adjust to those. And then orientation. Orientation is how you're marketing today. How are you advertising your business? What sources are you using? What works? What doesn't work? How do you track the results? So these are all things we want to build together. So the objectives, we want to be the goal. We want to recognize the challenges that are in there, and then the orientation is simply kind of what we're doing today and how we're going to track those results. So here's our SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic, and timely or time sensitive. So, I would encourage everybody, just take a minute, jot these down, have them up when you do your marketing plan, or even, when you set a goal for your company or yourself. Think back maybe to some goal maybe you set personally, or a goal that you set for your business, and think about ones that you didn't achieve. Was there one where you set it and it's missing one of these elements? Maybe it wasn't time sensitive or timely. Maybe it wasn't specific. Was there things that were kind of missing within there that caused you not to achieve the goal? And what could you have maybe done differently to make it more achievable? So think about that. Think about goals you've done in the past and apply the SMART goals to it. Okay, so here's our contest. Name that objective. What we're going to do is we're going to have you read through these, and if you want to respond through the comment section, you can do that, or if you want to just write it on a piece of paper, that works too. But what we want to do is we want to look at these 5 marketing objectives, and I want you to pick out the one that you feel is the SMART goal. So I'm going to give you just a couple seconds to read through them. Remember the SMART. So we want to make sure that goal fits all those criteria and matches those. And while you do that for a second, I am going to grab a quick drink of water. So hang on just a second. All right, so we're back. So the answer is, hopefully everybody picked D as in dog. The first one, A, increase my number of Twitter followers in 2020. Not specific. We want to know how many Twitter followers, and we want to know when in 2020. That's a big gap there. Attain a sales increase from 50,000 to 200,000 in May of 2020. We have a specific, but is that achievable goal? Can we go from May of 2019 to May of 2020 and increase our sales by 4 times? Probably not realistic, probably not attainable or achievable or realistic. In the spring of 2020, we're going to plant some grass in the back of our building. It's important to keep the back of your building looking good, but probably not going to impact sales much. Probably not going to impact customers unless they're walking around the back of your building quite a bit. So not really what we want. D, we talked about being the right answer, December 15th. So we've got our date, create a website. We can measure it. We can say, okay, we did it or we didn't do it. And we want to post all our products available via e-commerce. So we've captured everything in here. We've set our deadline. We think it's a relevant goal. It's important to have a website with the e-commerce available. So those are all things that meet the SMART objective. And then grow my customer email database by 20%. What's the date of it? How are we going to do it? Things like that. So E really doesn't maybe fit into what we're looking at there. So remember, as you set those marketing objectives or your marketing goals, keep that in mind. You want them to have specific, you want them to be measurable, you want it to be achievable or attainable, you want it to be relevant to the business, and lastly, you want it to be time sensitive. So competitive insight. Competitive insight really is how you're going to define your direct competitors. Who are they? What do they look like? Where are they located? You know, what out of that market share, out of that big slice of pie or that big piece of pie, what slice do those competitors have? You know, one competitor may have 30% of the marketplace, another might have 5%. You know, how do you fit within that pie? You know, what piece of the pie does your business have? So look at those competitors. We want to define them, and we want to call them out. We want to name them out in the plan. So be specific with who those competitors are. You don't want to just say, okay, it's the, you know, local hardware store that's within 30 miles of my hardware store. No, we want to call it out and say, okay, it's, you know, maybe it's Home Depot, maybe it's Ace Hardware, maybe it's Lowe's, something like that. So who are the competitors? Name them out. Think of substitute products as well. So if you sell a product that has a substitute, then that person that has that substitute is your competitor. So if I sell pizza and I'm on the corner, beautiful pizza shop, I've got a nice tablecloth there, and sort of big old huge pizza pies, just amazing. And across the street is the best taco place in the whole entire region. Everybody loves their tacos. They are fantastic. They're unbelievable. Those tacos are a substitute for my pizza. So if a family goes out to eat, they're going to pick either the pizza place or the taco stand. So think about substitutes. That's a really simple example, but consider anything that can kind of substitute for your product and look at your competitors there. The other thing we want to look at too is how those competitors advertise, how they reach their customers, what their customers look like. Do you share customers? Is your customer the same as their customer? You know, how does that look? So keep that in mind as you use a competitive insight. We want to pick out those competitors. We want to be specific with who they are, and we want to tell a little bit about what maybe gives them kind of an edge in the marketplace. All right, so SWOT analysis. Some of you might be familiar, some of you maybe not. SWOT analysis is a way to basically help us look both internally and externally at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the first one we're going to take a look at is strengths. So what you're doing is you're basically evaluating your business as it operates today. What are the strengths of that business? What are the things that you do better than your competition? What are the things that you are excellent at that you rule the marketplace? Those are internal. The strengths are internal. Weaknesses. We want to be specific and we want to be honest with ourselves. What are the weaknesses of our business? You know, internally, what are the things maybe that we don't do as well, that we can improve upon, areas maybe where we can just kind of up our game? What do those look like? And spell those out. I mean, really be honest with yourself. This isn't a document that you're going to share with your competitors or anyone else. This is for you. Identify those weaknesses. Opportunities are external. So those are things that out in the marketplace that you can capitalize on. So, you know, what's out there, maybe it's a change in the market, maybe it's something new that's come along, maybe it's a new product that you can bring in and sell. What do those opportunities look like in the marketplace? So those are external. Those are the things that are out there. You may have to do a little research, a little searching, but what are the opportunities for your business to grow? And then threats. What are the things that could happen that would impact your business? Things that are external that you have absolutely no control over that may happen to your business. It's important to have a plan in place to deal with what those threats are. And your marketing plan helps you identify what those look like. So it may be, you know, a business that closes in town. So if you have a major employer and you know they're laying off workers and it looks like they may be going out of business, people will move out of your community. That may impact your business. It will impact your business. So that might be a potential threat. So look at the market, look at your region. Are there businesses that are struggling, that are having issues? Will that impact your business? Maybe it's a supplier that's going out of business. Maybe you have a major supplier that is your main wholesaler. They're going out of business. You know, what are the things that can impact it? The thing I did when we used to do a SWOT analysis at the shopping center, we would invite a lot of different people into that conversation. So it wouldn't be just the marketing person and the management. It would also be others that would come in and give their viewpoints on what the strengths and weaknesses were of the shopping center. And what was really neat about inviting other people in is you got different viewpoints. So, you know, maybe somebody recognized something that you didn't recognize. So they came in and said, hey, you know, this is really a strength. We're doing this great. And you're like, I didn't really even think about that, but you're right, it is a strength. Or they might say, hey, you know, we're really not doing well in this area. The place over here is doing much better here. What can we do differently? I didn't even really think about that. So, you know, that's something that helps. So bring in your employees, ask your customers, you know, what's the strength of my business? What are the weaknesses of my business? Talk to the customers that are your regulars that you connect to. Ask friends and family, you know, quiz them and say, hey, what do you think the strength is of my business? What do you think the weaknesses are? What opportunities do you see out there that I might be able to capitalize on? So by getting input on the SWOT analysis, it really helps you to kind of build a little stronger marketing plan. So let's look at just a competitive analysis, kind of a SWOT analysis. So we're going to pick out target. By no means does, you know, do I have the perspective to tell exactly what Target's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. I've never worked at Target. I shop there. I think it's an awesome place to shop, but not a place that I really know internally what's going on. But let's just throw out a couple kind of from an outside perspective. So the strengths of Target, their brand is huge. You know, everybody recognizes the little Target symbol. They see the little dog on TV and it's kind of associated with Target. So their brand is immense. I mean, they're all over the place. Easy to recognize that brand. Another strength is their real estate. They have unbelievable real estate in terms of locations, where they're at, in terms of traffic flow patterns, things of that nature. That's definitely a strength. A weakness, the weakness is they're not the biggest player in the market. Walmart has more stores. Walmart has maybe a little stronger hold on some of their wholesalers in terms of negotiating prices and things like that. So that might be a weakness is, you know, Target's not number one in the market in terms of size. Opportunities, you know, opportunities might be as simple as, you know, increasing the online presence of Target. That might be an opportunity. Or maybe there's a line out there that Target doesn't carry now that is an opportunity to add to the store. So there may be all kinds of different opportunities for Target to grow. Maybe it's remodeling their stores. Maybe they have stores that have kind of run down a little bit. They need a little bit of facelift or fix up. So maybe that's an opportunity. Threats, any kind of employment issues in the area, that is definitely a potential for a threat. Other threats might be that, you know, other economic impacts on the community. Maybe they're in a location where area businesses are kind of closing around them, so there's the synergy that's there with the co-tenants that are around them may disappear. So a lot of different things that could be threats in terms of Target. Complementary analysis. This is the part of your market plan that you put together and you pick out products or services that complement yours. So where can you form an alliance or maybe a partnership with another business that has a product that complements yours. So, the simple thing is here, peanut butter and jelly. If I'm, if I have jelly for sale and my guy across the road has peanut butter for sale, maybe we do a little swap and put each one in the store, something like that. If I sell syrup and I know a business that sells pancake mix, maybe we can get together. Maybe he wants to carry his pancake mix in my store and I can carry syrup in his store or her store. So look for opportunities there to find complementary services or products. It may be a wholesale opportunity where you place your product in their store. It might be a situation where it's a connection of services. So, think about referrals. If I am a inspection person for houses, and that's where I focus my energy, I want to connect to lenders and banks. So when banks come up and they do the loan, they send the customer to me to say, okay, you need a home inspection. Tony's Home Inspection Service is a great place to go. Check it out. So look for ways to connect for referrals and ways to connect in terms of the business. So sharing of expenses. Maybe there's opportunities where you can go in and maybe it's splitting a booth at a county fair. Each of you have different products. One person has jams and the other person has syrups. They don't really compete with each other. Maybe you split the expenses in terms of that goes. So maybe there's a market that you haven't been able to get into, but somebody that's very entrenched in that market. You want to get your product in there, connect to them. So figure out ways to connect. Maybe it's just calling up the person and saying, hey, can we meet? Can we get together? Maybe it's a situation where you go to some chamber events and network with some folks, talk to them, let them know about your product, see if there's some opportunities to complement and work together. Know your customer. Knowing your customer is really the key to marketing. The more you know about the customer, the easier it is to connect and figure out what marketing channel works for them. If I have a child care facility, it probably doesn't make sense for me to market to someone that's retired. It's just not a good connection. If I own a hotel, it probably makes good sense to market to tourists and people whose occupation causes them to travel for work. Different generations have different channels, so figuring out what age group your target customer is in. World War II generation member, they may get their news from the newspaper, or maybe it's the late night news or evening news. A millennial's probably going to get theirs online. So figuring out which direction you want to go. If your business is a luxury item, household income is important consideration. So, look at that, consider that. So, I'd love to own a vacation home, but, I look at my bank account and it says, nope, that's not going to work. So if you're selling vacation homes, household income, you better check that out. So the other thing to think about is the decision maker. Try to figure out who the decision maker is that's going to buy your product or service. When we set up childcare, my wife and I was absolutely not the decision maker. She was the one that kind of vetted the childcare places and checked them out. I was the person that said, okay, I don't want to pay very much. If I can show up and pick up my kids and they're all in one piece, I'm happy. So that was what I was looking for. So my wife was the decision maker. Now, buying a car, I get a little bit more input. I want to know what the Kelley Blue Book price is. I want to know what the model is. Does it have any recalls on it? Is there any repair issues? Things like that. So in terms of buying a vehicle, my wife's very engaged. I'm very engaged. So together we're kind of the decision makers there, and it always makes for an interesting battle to see which vehicle we end up with. So usually I lose that one. So we want to match our target market to our marketing channel. So anytime you're working with an advertising person, it's important to understand what areas they reach. So if it's a radio station, finding out what's their market reach, who's their target audience, should I be advertising, and what programs do they have? Some radio stations, they may start off and they're playing rock music most of the day, and then it hits 6 o'clock and the high school football game comes on. Those folks that are listening may be different audiences. So the folks that are listening to the rock music may not be the same audience that's listening to the high school football game. They might also, but they might not. So think about that. Ask your advertiser for that information. You know, is your customer a night owl? Do they stay up late at night, or are they an early bird? Are they awake early in the morning? You know, it probably doesn't make sense to run advertising at 1 a.m. unless your customer is up at 1 a.m. So match that advertising with your customer. Understand the zip code, primary and secondary markets. So, you know, if a radio station advertises and they have a certain market area that they reach, and you have customers that are outside of that area, you may have to connect to other radio stations, other communities, or other newspapers, or wherever the case may be. Consider the rings around where your business is at, the 5 mile, the 10 mile, the 20 mile. Look at market research, understand the customers that are within those rings and how you can reach them. We want to identify those things. Ask questions to those salespeople. What's your circulation? You know, what's the best programming to connect to my audience? What are key times I should be advertising? You know, those are things. How many subscribers do you have? Key questions to ask. So ask your salespeople, find out that information, make sure it connects to your marketing plan. Growth paths. What are some new markets you can enter? New products. Maybe you're selling business to consumer and there's an opportunity to sell business to business, or vice versa. You know, what are the things that you can look at to grow your business, to get it bigger, to make it grow? Promotional mix. One of the key things you can do is when a customer comes to the door, ask them, how did you hear about us? Where did you hear about the business? You know, what made you come in? Survey them, you know, ask them, are you on Facebook a lot? What TV shows do you watch? You know, is there a magazine that you read? Are there clubs that you're part of? Find out where they get their information. Your number one resource for marketing steps through your door every day, and that's your customer. So connect with that customer. Find out as much as you can about them, and then that will help you understand how to connect to them. Track results and be specific about it. If you do a radio ad, throw in a little thing at the end saying, hey, mention this ad and get 10% off. That allows you to track where the customer heard about it. So when they come in the door and they say, hey, I heard you on radio station XYZ, can I get my 10% off? And you go, all right, mark it down. This person, that radio station connected to this person. So, you know, don't just consider traditional marketing. Consider other things. You know, you've got your online presence. You need to have a Facebook page. You need to have a Facebook business page. You should have a Google profile. LinkedIn's a great resource to connect to. Those are all things that are part of your online presence, obviously, along with Grow Nebraska. So that's part of it. But consider non-traditional, possibly kind of guerrilla marketing tactics. That might be posting flyers in community bulletin boards or break rooms, doing donations for fundraisers. I love donations for fundraisers. It helps the fundraiser out. You know, it gets them, maybe it's a gift basket they can auction off to help their cause, but it's also important because it gets your name out there. And they say, okay, this company or this business is engaged in the community. They care about the community. I'm going to go here because of that. So much today is about the things that your business does in the community that the customers can look at and say, they're a part of the community, they care about the community, I want to take my business there because of that. Budget's the key part of the marketing plan. Where are you going to spend those dollars at? Are you going to focus on one particular area, or are you going to kind of spread it out? Some of the systems that we recommend here, Excel, you know, is really simple, putting together an Excel spreadsheet, or QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a great resource to put together a budget. Reference your budget often. So once you put together your budget, look at it. You know, see where you're at, see if you're up, see if you're down. If an advertiser comes in and says, hey, I have this great opportunity, I have this package I want to put together for you, you need to look at the budget and say, it's not going to work for me. Or maybe, hey, I'll do it, but I need to cut over in this other area. So put together that budget. Ask advertisers for contract options for cost savings. A lot of times they'll do an annual contract and you're going to be able to save money as opposed to doing one advertisement here or one advertisement there. So ask for those contract options, see if they fit into your budget, and you can just say no. I mean, if a salesperson approaches you, it's not in your budget, you don't look like it doesn't look like a good fit, you can say, hey, no, it's not in my budget, contact me next year, we'll talk then. Once again, industry standards, marketing expenses, a percentage of sales, we can pull up that information. So if you're interested in that, let us know, contact NBDC, we'll pull out some information for you. Historical expenditures are important. You know, look at what you spent in the past. What did you do last year for advertising? Hopefully something, maybe nothing. But look at bank statements, look at your advertising contracts, look at your QuickBooks or your Excel and see what you've done in the past. Check that out. Okay, so action plan. The last thing we want to put in our marketing plan is what we want to do. So in this case, I put together just some ones with our peanut butter and jelly example. I've got Tony's grape jelly. I want to connect to Joe, who's got the peanut butter. Maybe we can combine forces and do some good. So I'm going to set up a meeting with Joe, make that happen. Sam's got the local farmers market. I want to pick out a spot over there, so I want to make sure I get my spot all reserved. I want to find out what the rents are. I want to join the Chamber of Commerce, do some networking, promote my grape jelly, maybe see if there's some complementary products that are out there I can connect to besides Joe's peanut butter. I want to ask Susie from the radio station, hey, what's your reach? What's your frequency? What's your programming like? Who are your customers? Do they match who my customers are? And then I want to take updated pictures, post them to Google profile, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever the case may be. Make sure you're updating your pictures and your photos. Really key to keeping people active and engaged on your business. The last thing is form a habit. Make sure that when you do a marketing plan, do it the same month every year. So September was always a good time. September, October was always a good time at the shopping center for us. We weren't into the craziness of the holiday season yet. That's when we put together our marketing plan. So you want to put it together before the year starts. So for 2020 plan, you know, I would say now's a good time to do it. If you're getting into your holiday season, it's starting to get busier at your business, then wait till January, but don't wait beyond that. Try to put it together. Give yourself a deadline. Give yourself a reward. Putting together marketing plans is not easy, but it makes a huge, huge difference on your business. So, and review it periodically, check it out, and then repeat. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Do it year after year, make it a living document, and it will pay off. So where to find us? We are all over the state of Nebraska, so no matter where you're located at in the state, here's some phone numbers that you can pull up. The nice thing is all these offices have management consultants. Their services are free to provide you those services, whether it's business plans, marketing plans, cash flow projections, whatever the case may be, we're there to help out. So keep us in mind. Market research, another key. So Q&A, I love this sign here. If you'll notice, there's a big chain attached to it, which tells me they used to have another sign and it probably got stolen. So, but we'll go ahead and open it up for questions if anybody has any, and I will post my information here.
Yeah, so if anybody has questions for Tony, just pop in that chat box down below. I'll give it a few seconds here to give people some time here. Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody has any questions. So I am gonna go ahead and pop my screen back up here for you guys. I just have a couple more housekeeping things. Maybe in a second. Giving Tuesday is on December 3rd. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and visit our Facebook page on December 3rd because Facebook is matching donations dollar to dollar. This is a huge opportunity for our foundation, and donations are how we give you guys these free trainings. So definitely feel free to hop on there and make a donation on December 3rd, and Facebook will match it dollar to dollar. Our next T3 is going to be in December. It's 2020 Aware and Prepare, and we have the amazing Kathleen Fox from the IRS. She's going to be discussing taxes for 2020 and filing as a small business. And that is everything for today. Thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the screen. Please call or email me to schedule an appointment if you want to come in and chat. That'd be great. And I want to make sure that we do have the right staff members here to help you as well. That's all for today. Thanks for joining the Grow Nebraska Foundation on this month's third Thursday training. Another shout out to Tony Schultz at the SBDC for being today's presenter. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.